This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. Mr. El Capitano. You knew it was coming, buddy. You knew it was coming.
Yeah, I set myself up for that failure. How's it going, Kyle?
Awesome. Episode 131 with none other than the amazing Julie McQueen, president of Carbon TV. Julie's been on the show before, and I got to sit down and chat with her again, and always a pleasure to talk hunting, talk the hunt space, I guess, influencer world with her. Man, she's running an empire over there. She's got all the big names on Carbon TV, and it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, absolute powerhouse in the outdoor world. And if you don't know who she is, look her up and look up Carbon TV, because she's been changing the game the past few years at such a young age, and what she's been accomplishing, it's quite incredible. I'm envious of her. She's someone to look up to, and yeah, she's killing it.
Super cool. So they've got so many streaming channels on there now, completely free, no charge. Great programming. They got a bunch of really interesting shows on there. Lots of diversity. So, tons of women on there doing amazing things in the outdoor space. And it's not just hunting either. There's a whole bunch of other stuff they got going on. So they've branched out into a whole bunch of other areas that are of interest, like adventure sports. We had Laura Zare on before, and super cool individual, and not your token hunter, I guess you would classify her, but nonetheless super interesting, and just really cool shows on the platform. Aviation now, they've got podcasts, everything. There's really no limit.
Yeah, never ends. Every time you turn a corner, turn a page, there's something new on Carbon TV, and yeah, love it.
Yeah. So Julie is, it's really interesting to talk to her. We talk about business. We talk about how she stays focused and grounded, and super interesting conversation about, how she kind of keeps, she was running this massive company, tons of people looking to her for guidance and support, and how she sort of keeps an even keel, and that aspect of it. Talks a lot about her meditation, and about just her healing and self-help, and how she, keeps balanced, and how the outdoors does it for her. So really cool podcast, and really enjoyed this chat with her. Way different than our first chat. We just talked about different things. But of course we came back to the outdoor space and talked about what she's got planned for hunting this year, and what's on the agenda for her. So real cool podcast.
Oh, right on. Well, we got something on the agenda coming up too. That's pretty important, I would say. The inaugural Mountain Monarch Golf Tournament coming up June 16th and 17th at the Bighorn Golf and Country Club in Kamloops.
Is it going to be hosted by El Capitano, El Jefe?
Oh, I think I've been roped into something else down in North Dakota, I believe.
Oh, right. You're going to chapter and affiliates. So you're going to be stuck with Mr. Michael Survey, and really the guy leading this is director Greg Nalloweg. So Greg's doing a great job. He's actually through his own business runs a charity golf tournament every year, does a great job of it. And this was his vision when he came on the board. He said, I want to do a golf tournament in Kamloops. And he's worked really hard on it. It's really cool. They got a ton of sponsors. It's a relatively inexpensive. $150 gets you a round of golf. There's tons of prizes, tons of giveaways. Of course, we got all kinds of sponsors. And of course, you got bragging rights. And you're going to be on the golf course. You're going to be get your driver out, and you're going to be looking at bighorn sheep while you're doing it. There's a couple guys that told me that they're going to get on the golf course. They're not even taking clubs. They're going to take their binoculars and a case of beer, and they're going to sit there and drink beer and look at sheep, and that's all they're doing. So you can't go wrong, right? You just can't.
Yeah, no, it's you're not playing through on that course, so you got to wait for the sheep to pass. It's it's quite the unique spot there, right tucked into the mountains in Kamloops. And the sheep they live on the course. They're right there. You got big rams, you got ewes, you got lambs. Everything's there, and they're there in numbers. And to not see them there is quite rare. So it's unique. It's a Wild Sheep Society of BC golf tournament, and there's sheep on the course, and there's going to be good times. There's going to be drinks. Each hole sponsored, giveaways, you name it, we got it. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a staple of the society for years to come.
Yeah, super cool. I think Frontiersman Gear, our conservation partner, they bought a foursome and they had a vacancy and they gave away, they did some sort of promotion and they gave away one of the spots in that foursome. So one lucky guy who's won the promotion is going to be on that. So that'll be a ton of laughs. Agostino's going to be out there whacking around, and it's going to be pretty funny. So super cool. And unfortunately, I'd love to be there too, and I would have been there, but like you, were committed to chapter and affiliates down in South Dakota. So we're going to miss this one, but we'll have to get them to switch it for future years to make sure that we can be part of it.
Yeah, so if you're looking to join the golf teams there and have a good time, go to our website, www.wildsheepsociety.com/golf, and register and see the team in Kamloops.
A really cool thing that Greg's doing here this year too is there's the whiskey tasting. So we got our Chadwick. We're sold out of the Chadwick now. We had our special run of single malt whiskey, which is highly people love it. I love it. Yeah, it's freaking addictive. I got 3 bottles staring me down right here, right now. I bought a bunch of them. But Greg's doing a whiskey tasting too, so you can sign up for that. I think is it $100 for the whiskey tasting, Greg?
I'm not 100% on that. I think it was $100. Yeah.
Yeah. So sign up for that. And yeah, it's $100 and you get 4 to 6 ounces of premium whiskey. Chadwick's going to be there and other stuff too. And it's just going to be a great event. And it's our Wild Sheep family. All our major conservation partners are going to be part of this event. Tons of giveaways, tons of prizes. We're going to have some raffles. And it's just going to be a class act. So get involved. Yeah. What else we got?
I think that's all we got right now on the go. Oh, the gun raffle. We got a 6-gun super raffle. What are we talking about here? Those tickets
they're doing well. We're close to 40% sold out now. But the key takeaway here is we've got an early bird raffle draw, and we're going to draw that on June 24th. So you got to get that ticket to get a chance to win all 6 of those rifles. So you buy your ticket, it's $50, and you get 6 cracks to win $54,000 in prizes. Grand prize is a Gunworks Climber. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful setup. And then 5 other rifles, and we're doing the early bird on June 24th in Comox. So you're distracted, buddy. June 24th in Comox. So make sure you get your raffle tickets. And with that, we're off to episode 131 with Julie McQueen, President Carbon TV. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Precision Optics. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Precision Optics, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Hey, Julie, welcome back to Talk is Sheep. It's awesome to reconnect after a while here.
I know. Yeah, it's good to be back. Been a while since we've caught up.
It has been. We were trying to put something together for Sheep Week, and I think you had a wedding to go to. There was something else going on that week that you couldn't make it, and we tried to make SHOT work, and I wasn't going to SHOT, so thank you for
I know, that time of year gets a little crazy. Yeah, one of our people here at Carbon was getting married, so I had to skip Sheep Week this year. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good excuse,
year,
I guess. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll do a podcast at the booth. That'll be fun. We'll tee something up for Sheep Week.
Love it. Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Good. Okay, so let's talk about the show season. So it's I'm just slowly starting to recover now. How about you? Was it crazy for you guys, or was it what like for you?
It's always crazy, but it's a good kind of crazy. I would much rather it be that way than the opposite. It's busy for us because Carbon TV is the official video streaming partner for a lot of the shows. So we put a lot of work in on the marketing side. We work with their teams, and then we open up our network so that they can get all that video content out there to everybody. So yeah, it's the good kind of busy, the kind of thing we want to be going on.
So with that video streaming partnership, talk a little bit about that. I've seen with Western Hunt Expo, you guys were their official streaming partner. Mm-hmm. What's involved with that? What are the benefits? Is it getting the word out? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the way that all came about was a few years ago, SHOT Show, the NSSF, reached out, and I have a long time partnership with them just personally over the years in the industry. And, they had been uploading all of that content that's created during the week of SHOT Show to YouTube, which is fine. But, due to the nature of the industry that we're in, sometimes there's censorship and people can't really find the videos very easily. So we became the solution for them on that side of things. So we have our team on call during the week of SHOT Show. Same thing with Expo. So any video content that's being created by their teams on site, we are on call. We open everything up for them. We make sure that we're assisting with marketing and promotion and pushing that out to our audience so people can kind of live vicariously through that content. Anyone who can't make the shows and who can't be there that year, they can come to Carbon and kind of get a glimpse of everything that's going on, and they don't have to deal with the censorship when you work with us. So kind of a win-win for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. So with that, is it, I guess, is it kind of live? Obviously, it's resident on the site, but you guys do live stuff too, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do a little bit of live, but I would say for the most part, it's produced and then really quickly turned around. So it's almost live. The reason why, I think the biggest reason why we don't do a lot of live broadcast is just bandwidth for them. A lot of times, I don't know if you've ever tried to make a phone call from the convention center at SHOT Show, but the service there, I wouldn't call it great. So instead of them, using all of that up to live stream, they actually have a team on site. They produce it, SHOT Show TV, and then all of the, the booths and behind the scenes. And then as their team is editing that, they're just constantly uploading to our system. So it's almost live, but not quite.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with you. So I know you've been doing lots of stuff outdoors, getting out and doing your thing. Do you have plans for hunts this year? What does your spring look like?
Yeah, I used to get to go hunt a lot more than I do now. I did get out a little bit for turkey season already. I'm in Michigan. That's where our Carbon headquarters is at. So did that. It was a little cold, to be honest. So I'm holding out for a little bit of time until it warms up. But morel season's coming up, and I'm a fanatic for mushroom hunting. So definitely making some plans to, call in sick and go hit the woods and look for some morels. And then, the fall season should be good too. I have one elk hunt booked. And then, instead of booking as many hunts as I used to, I kind of just play it by ear, see what comes up and see if I can get away from the office long enough to go. But yeah, it should be a really good year. I'm excited.
Awesome. So nothing for spring bear or anything like that, or just you got enough.
Actually,
on your plate?
I do. I'm supposed to have plans with Jana for spring bear if she doesn't cancel on me, which I hope she listens to this and hears me calling her out. But yeah, I'm supposed to go hunt with Jana a little bit this spring bear season, so that'll be fun. Anytime we get in the woods together, it's always a good time.
Very cool. So when you get out with Jana, are you guys going exclusively Montana? Does she bounce around to other states too, or how does that work with her and her show?
Yeah, she bounces around to other states. She's really big into bear hunting in Idaho, so she runs baits over there, and which is really an eye-opening experience to see somebody put that much work in. She writes a column for one of the bear magazines and really kind of helps spread the word on the educational side of baiting, how it works, what the regulations are, and how much work goes into that. So I've seen her strap one of those barrels onto her pack and just like hike in a few miles to her spot. And it's not like they just show up and sit there and wait for a bear to come in. It's a lot of work. So I kind of want to see it in person for myself. I get the phone call when she has success, and I kind of get to kind of see it, but this year I want to go with her and experience it.
Very cool. So when a situation like that, would you be on a tree stand with your bow, would you have a tag, or are you just going to be there to experience?
So instead of a bow, I think she wants me to try to shoot one with a pistol, which is something she's really into. And, she's, again, I'm kind of her biggest cheerleader because she is one of my closest, well, she's my closest friend. Bear hunting with a pistol can be, really thrilling, and especially in close proximity like that, where you're baiting them in, and then it just adds a new level of challenge. So I think she wants me to attempt that, and I would be totally in. Yeah, I would absolutely go for that.
Very cool. So this would be something you guys would probably televise. It'd be one of her shows.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Yeah. If I go out there, we'll have it on camera for sure, which is very exciting.
Very cool. So on that note, do you ever just get out without the camera and doing your own thing? And what's the hunting experience like on versus off camera for you? And do you have a preference, or do you really care?
Yeah. So, the first, for anyone who doesn't know, I've been kind of, working in the outdoor industry since the early 2000s. And, for the majority of that, everything I did had to be on camera. I've had, 3 or 4 different shows over the years, and, that comes with obligation of having a cameraman with you all the time. So I actually shot, about 4 years ago, one of the only deer I've ever killed off camera. And it was just a whole new experience. It was, just me, and I had a guide, but he wasn't with me when I shot the deer. He was over a little ways. And I remember after, I shot it with my bow, and we were recovering it, and it didn't go very far. And it was just a whole new experience. I didn't have to make sure that the camera was on. I didn't have to make sure that another person was kind of, ready for me to pull that trigger. So yeah, I've started doing more of that now at this point in my career. I still have a show, but I don't have that type of show where I have to do that. Now, with that being said, the one thing that I would miss if I didn't always have those cameras on is, going back and reliving that moment is kind of nice. Or seeing your shot placement. We've all had that where you're kind of like, okay, but where exactly did it hit? And you go replay it in slow motion a few times. And so there's pros and cons. I really enjoy being on my own in the field at this point. I'm kind of a little more private than I used to be. But yeah, any opportunity to go, be on camera with Jana or something, it's great.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like an exciting episode too. A couple of ladies out there with pistols chasing bears around. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I think it'll be really fun. Hopefully we make it happen. I think we will.
Really cool. So I guess that's got to happen pretty soon. Is it like for us in BC here, the season ends in June, so that's not much time left, eh?
Yeah. I need to. Actually, I'm going to see her this coming weekend. So hopefully we get a plan on the books. Yeah.
Have some dialogue about it. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that. So I was going to talk about it at some point, but I think this is as good a time as any is. So Jana and John he popped the question recently. So were you there for that?
I wasn't there for the moment when he proposed, but I was her first phone call. So, and I definitely cried like multiple times because I love seeing her happy, and I love seeing them happy. They're such a good couple. And she's someone that I love dearly, and we've grown up together over the past, over a decade. And so I wasn't actually there for the proposal, but yep, they are getting married. They're getting married in June, late June.
Ah, like in 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. Okay, that's
what a power
awesome.
couple. Huh?
Very exciting.
They're the best.
It is for sure. Well, it was funny because it was your social or something you posted, and I'm like, were you there for that? Were you part of that process? I wasn't quite sure what the deal was.
You never know. I mean, we're always together. So, yep. No, I wasn't invited for the actual proposal though. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll be there for the wedding. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, last time we had you on, we talked about women in hunting and the inclusivity part of it. You look on Carbon TV and you guys have done such a great job. There's so many women out there doing so many great things and just all over the map, not just hunting, the whole gamut of it. Let's talk a little bit. Have we done enough? Are we where we need to be? Is it an even playing field these days, or how does that look in your eyes?
Yeah, I don't even know if it needs to be an even playing field, but I think that I believe we've gotten to a point in this industry or community, or even in this business, where women have opportunities. They have a lot of support systems around them. They have, all of the tools necessary to succeed if this is what they really want to be a part of. There's a lot of, women's only, courses and camps and experiences, and you can kind of build a really great community around yourself of other females who enjoy, doing the same thing. We've added a lot of female-driven content to the network over the past few years. I'm very passionate about that. A lot of my girlfriends, have been doing this for a very long time, and they're very, very talented. And it's just really wonderful to provide that opportunity to get them the distribution that they deserve. In the past, I think there's been a lot of women who have wanted to move into making a business out of this in some way. But they, maybe they were unsure, they didn't have the right people around them. Not sure. But yeah, I think that instead of an even playing field, I think that we've gotten to a point where women are very highly respected, and not just in creating content. There's a lot of women who run major companies in this industry who are, very, very well respected as, marketing directors and, running really big businesses. So I'm proud of that. I think that's absolutely incredible.
It's great to see. So now, I look at, you look at lines of equipment and gear and stuff, and it's really tailored to, for the generally mostly men. Are we seeing a bit of an evolution there? Have we done enough in that space? You talked about, yourself in a role as the president of Carbon TV. You've done such a great job of including women. Are we seeing more women, like, for gear and that sort of stuff, running companies that are being more inclusive of women? What's your feel on that?
Yeah, I feel like it made that jump quite a few years ago. So as a woman who, I still hunt, spend a lot of time outside adventuring, even not just hunting, fishing, and, just traveling, spending time in the outdoors. I don't really remember a time recently where I was looking for something specific and couldn't find it because I was a woman. It's not like you sit online and go like, oh man, if only they made this, that I could use as a female. I don't think that hasn't been my experience of that. There's been a lot of the, for example, clothing, a lot of them have specifically started gearing towards women. They know that women spend money. We, have a big community who, if one of my girlfriends loves a product, I'm definitely going to put my thoughts into it, into buying the same thing. So yeah, I feel like a lot of, as far as the retail side and the product side, over the years, they've done a great job of including women, and not just your standard, female, that you would assume is going to be outside. It's very inclusive of different ages, younger females, older females, different sizes, different needs. So yeah, I think it's been really great as far as that goes.
Right on. So now if we just look at, the average young lady that wants to, or average woman, let's not be exclusive of age even, that wants to get into the hunt space. They just want to go on a hunt. One thing I'm noticing in our own community, like the wild sheep world, and in BC here in particular, we just don't get as many women to the shows. It tends to be very male driven, very dominant. We're trying to be more inclusive, trying to create a space for women where there's interest and stuff, but we just still don't. And even, somebody said to me, well, your auction items, it's all for men. But the problem is we'll bring stuff in for women, and then, I think we're missing the mark because it doesn't do well. We barely make market value for it or whatever we need to do. So, but are you finding, it's much better, it's easier, like women can get out and do it, be out in the space now, or are there still barriers to entry for them?
If there are any barriers to entry, I would say that that's on a granular level. Maybe some women don't feel like they can attend the shows and feel comfortable. I can understand the intimidation factor there, especially in a male-dominated industry or community. You could get into something like that where some women may not feel like they're included or that they would be comfortable, going and exploring these shows. But for example, we go to Hunt Expo every year, and it's one of my favorites. All of my friends go there. All of my girlfriends go to that one. They put on a beautiful ladies' luncheon. They make it affordable. They make it really fun. The way they organize it makes everyone feel very included. And, Jana and I always have a table with all of our girlfriends and, people we work with in the industry. And I think that that's a solid way to build community. And those women spend money. I mean, I was there this last year, and they definitely did okay with those auction items. But I think it's because they make it fun and they make it interesting. And they also kind of have done a good job, not just at the one at Expo, but across the board, any of those that you go to, where when you walk in the door, you don't feel alienated. You know that these are other women who, are all kind of curious about the same things, and you want to be friends with each other. And there's no, there's no animosity or, jealousy. It's all just women kind of lifting each other up and forming communities. And it's just such a great way to build connections. And then it snowballs from there. If these women go have a great time and they spend some money and now they're connected to it, they will be back the next year. And then they will feel more comfortable going to maybe like the Friday night, banquets or walking the show floor and experiencing that, because now they feel like they're a part of that community instead of just kind of there by themselves.
When you look at the different platforms out there, like SCI has a program, Wild Sheep has a program. There's a whole bunch of them out there. So, is there one that you see that's doing a really good job? And obviously there's the show aspect, and that's one thing, to go to a show and feel comfortable and inclusive, but to get out in the field and feel that kind of aspect of it. Is there one that stands out, or a program or something we can do a little bit differently that's a bit more inclusive, that would encourage more people to get out there?
Yeah, so one thing that I really like that I've seen coming up recently, I actually attended one of them last year. Some women are putting on camps that you go to. The one I went to is in Alaska. Tana Granda put it on. It was fabulous. And I actually went to the very first one that they ever did. And it's 12 or 13 women who've never met each other, and they take you on a float plane and dump you in the tundra for 5 or 6 days together. But it's educational, and she's not the only one doing that. I know of quite a few of them, and they're making it affordable considering what you get with that. So the way I saw that is, as a woman, if I have a budget and I really want to build community and go spend time outdoors, I'm much more likely to spend on an experience like that, where I can build a community of other like-minded women and be educated and learn something and have that adventure. And then the next year I'll go take those skills and book a hunt, right? So I feel like that's a really nice stepping stone for the female community, where, you pay X amount of dollars, but they make it foolproof. You show up and they kind of have you covered on the gear and the food and the experience. And that's one thing that I think has been really brilliant. It's I know quite a few women who've attended, and it's basically the gateway. Now that you've done that, other women, you can reach out to them for advice. You can all kind of meet up at the shows together and say, "Oh, are you going to Sheep Week?" Yes, we're all going, right? So that to me has been great. And the best part is they're getting brands involved. So, what, for example, Tana's doing is, all of these brands are like, yeah, that's who we want to reach. So let us donate some product. Let us get involved and kind of help you make them more comfortable in the field. And then now you've got the brand loyalty. So those women are going to go spend their money at those brands who donated to that event.
Yeah, very cool. So when we look at our space, have we done enough to sort of future-proof us? There's kind of been this anti-hunting sentiment that we've sort of had to deal with, and we've tried to increase inclusivity, but have we done enough? And sort of where do we go from here? Like where do we when we look forward, is there more we need to do, or are we in a pretty good space right now where we're at?
I think there's always going to be more that we can do. But you're really never going to know what those things are until you really deep dive into what's been done already, learning from the past, knowing, what could have been done differently or better. But from where I sit and everything that I see throughout this industry on a daily basis, I think that the trajectory has been great. I think that, all of the different conservation organizations, the foundations, they're all stepping up and really considering inclusivity. So not just for women, but for, youth, for young people, for, different ethnic backgrounds, right? So the Hispanic community, like a lot of these things that, maybe 15, 20 years ago, we weren't really considering it enough. But they've put programs in place and funding in place to really kind of move the ball in that direction. And to me, that means somebody along the way was taking notes of, okay, we need to be moving over here because we can't just make it a boys club and have it, have all of these other people feel alienated, like they can't be a part of what we're building. I think it's been really great. From the female perspective, I can't think of very many things that I would, take a time machine back 4 years and tell somebody to do differently. I feel like they've done a really good job throughout the whole industry.
Yeah, but if we go back 20 years, there are a lot of things we've done over that, 20 years ago that we probably should have changed, a long time ago. So it's interesting that we've taken note. So when we look at, the recruitment stuff, there's so much conjecture about, are we in a good space for where we need to be? And there's kind of, the old guard that's saying there's just too many people out there. And I listened to a recent, I think it was a Rogan podcast talking about, we need these people. We need people to care about outdoors, the wildlife, conservation, and hunting. Otherwise, we're going to lose it all. If we don't have people invested, if people just don't care, they're not going to protect it, right? So, there might be more people out there we have to share the space with, but how do we look moving forward with regards to recruitment, retention, and that aspect of it?
Right. Yeah, I know that some people are getting frustrated because, let's face it, change is difficult for everyone, right? Some people just resist it no matter what. And I was just having this conversation recently where I can remember, 5 or 8 years ago, driving to Idaho, for example, and just walking into Walmart and buying a tag over the counter for the unit that I wanted to hunt in, right? Not a problem. Just there you go, walk out the door with it. It's not that way anymore. And I'm not the only one really feeling like, okay, now we have all of these people who know that secret, right? Like it just, that change is difficult because it's something I always really enjoyed doing, and not just Idaho, but quite a few different states where, it's not as easy to go participate in these hunts because there's so many people who also want to participate. But with that being said, it means we're doing a good job. Now it turns to the conversation of, conservation and animal numbers and who's really keeping track of, and who's really doing this for the right reasons. Who's saying, okay, let's set the quotas at this for these reasons. And I know there's a lot that goes in on the legislation side and on the scientific and the data side. But I think that the most important thing that we can do is be transparent in that messaging so that people don't get so frustrated and think we shouldn't be encouraging more people to start hunting. The messaging is everything. So, we talk about the 3 R's and recruitment and retention. Well, we want the young people to continue this, this lifestyle that we're all working so hard to protect and maintain. But that also means that with that comes, the responsibility of managing the herd numbers and, adjusting quotas when certain states can't handle that many hunters coming in from out of state. But I think that conversation is always just going to be difficult because people resist change, and I guess speaking from experience, it gets frustrating. Would I love to just walk into Walmart in Idaho and buy my elk? Yeah. But I logged in at, 2 a.m. when the tags went live, and I sat there online waiting and didn't get the tag I wanted. But that's, that's part of the deal, and that's, you have to play by the rules. So.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, when we talk about state agencies, for example, and you hunt different states, who's doing a good job and what needs to be done a little bit better on the state agency side of things in terms of messaging and and I guess maybe inclusivity too, maybe a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think that, just from what I know, I think Utah probably does a really good job. And that's only because I hear a lot of people talking about it. It's not, that knowledge doesn't come from me. That's not me doing the research and bringing that as like, oh, this is factual. But when people discuss it openly, that seems to be one state that people are pretty proud of what's going on there. Jana was the commissioner in Montana, last year. So I got to hear a lot of, the behind the scenes and legislation and the conversations, that people were having about, different things going on there. And I think that sometimes we can get, I don't know if it's lazy or complacent, but instead of really, attending the meetings, going to the town council, to the forums, right? And like really being a part of the conversation, we start reading things online or just gossiping with our friends. And then we don't really have the actual information, the real data or the real conversations that people are having. So I think anybody who has major complaints about any state, step number one is really do your own research and find out what conversations are really happening. There's kind of a little bit of a gap in the transparency. Sometimes it's difficult for a lot of people to understand what those conversations even mean for them. So it's helpful to have, whether it's personalities or, celebrities, Rogan's a good example, talking about that openly and kind of normalizing the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it that people don't understand. The management numbers. There's a lot of factors, and then there's other factors beyond the wildlife landscape. There's just the general management of the state that goes into it, and politics, a whole bunch of other things too, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about what's going on with Carbon TV and with you specifically. So, as president, how do you feel that you've changed the trajectory of the organization with regards to the content and what you guys share as a platform?
Yeah, so I am the president, but I have a team, working with me, and that's the most important part of being here is having people around me that share the same vision and can work towards it. When I started, kind of taking over the operations here, it was very much a hunting, fishing network, which is great. Like, don't get me wrong, that's still the primary, side of the business. But one of my main focuses was diversifying that content library. So instead of just hunting and fishing content, it's important for us to be more inclusive of, other verticals that could have a crossover audience. So agriculture, farming, survival, aviation's a really big one. So people who tend to watch hunting or fishing shows also tend to watch a lot of these other types of shows as well. So that's one thing that I've been really proud of. We've grown our female audience through, licensing more content that's female led. So a lot of women are creating incredible shows, and we're trying to be in support of that to, as you said earlier, even that playing field a little bit. But then also just kind of looking for content creators who are outside of the normal box, right? So people who are just out there creating something they're really proud of, who are telling a story. So that's one thing that we've really been focusing on over the years is, how do we make Carbon TV a place where everybody wants to come consume content and they won't get bored. And, we've really worked on our live cameras are great. So we have quite a few live cameras, wildlife cams. The most popular one is the Crush Cam on Lee and Tiffany's place in Iowa. And, it's such an educational thing. So a lot of people leave it running on their TV all day for their kids to watch so they can see the deer come in. You sometimes see the deer shed their antlers, see them regrowing their antlers. So yeah, we've really kind of focused on that side of things instead of just, being a hunting and fishing network, thinking of all of the other people who might want to watch content here. And then, just expanding over into new distribution. So, Carbon TV is always free to watch. We don't ever charge people no subscription. You don't even have to sign in. You don't have to give us your information if you don't want to. It's better if you do, because the experience is a little different when you log in. But we're on, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon, Samsung TVs, really anywhere that you can stream television, Carbon TV is there. So we make it easy for people to find.
How much is metrics? How much does that play a role in it? Obviously, if nobody's watching a show, it's not going to do well. But are you guys really data driven with regards to that, and listeners and demographics and that sort of stuff? How important is that, and what you guys do?
Very important, yeah. And I do focus on the data and the analytics. It's one thing I enjoy is watching for patterns and understanding the audience, and not just what they're watching, but how they're watching it. Now. Instead of just assuming that somebody is going to be watching a video on their phone, we know if they're watching on a TV. And so we can kind of track the different retention levels. So if somebody is streaming to a television in their living room, we assume they're going to watch a little bit longer than if they're watching on their tablet or their phone. And every major network, watches pretty much the same types of data and analytics when it comes to that. And we try to cater to the audience in that way. So we know by adding short films and documentaries and, really pushing those towards people who are watching on Roku, for example, that just kind of keeps them watching longer and more interested. So yeah, it's very much data driven, which is the fun of anything that's digital is, that scientific data where we can dig into it and see, exactly what's working and exactly what's not working.
How do you guys adapt to sort of cater yourself to the next best thing? Like, you look at what's emerging, where do we need to go? How do we need to get there? Is that something that you focus on? Do you have a team specifically that's trying to cultivate that? But the next best thing, how do you guys build that into your platform?
Very much a team effort. Everyone who works here is very passionate about what we do. They're very, very intelligent, very good at what they do in each of their different departments. So when we sit down and we have like a creative meeting and we're all just kind of throwing ideas around and really talking, I think everyone here feels very safe, kind of tossing ideas out there. It's a workplace. I'm really proud of the culture here where it's very, it's safe for you to say you have an idea. And if that idea works, then we're going to go for it. And if it doesn't, then it will probably stepstone us to a different idea that does work. So, overall, I definitely, try to focus on the vision, the overall vision of the company, but I couldn't do it without everybody else here. I come up with a lot of crazy ideas and they'll be the first ones to tell me like, no, that's definitely not going to work, but that's the beauty of getting to work with this company is, the sky's the limit. We can really do anything we want. And we've kind of proven that over the past few years. We've moved in some really cool new directions.
So on the creative side, is that something is that a weekly thing where you'll sit down and have a weekly creative meeting, or is this a monthly thing, or is it just, hey, I've got a great idea, let's get the team together and let's talk about it? How does it, or is it organic too? Is it like, okay, hey, there's this person and they got a really wicked idea. What do you guys think? How does that process work, or is it kind of all over the map depending on the circumstance?
Kind of all over the map. We try to schedule some of those meetings out, and we try to, say, okay, everyone, come to the office and we're going to sit around this table and these are the things we want to focus on. And then other times it happens very organically. Just over across the room, Chris is sitting over there. He's our, head creative designer, and he's worked here way longer than I have. And he's, just a genius. And so sometimes it's just me walking through and telling him about a phone call I had. And then I sit down and we just kind of, go over, okay, what could that mean in all of these different areas? So, I think just working with people you really trust and respect, where you can just toss ideas out. And, it's not like we just try anything that comes through the door, but we whiteboard it, we structure it out. Is this something, a direction that we want to move in? But if it's little things, just, like a user experience update or testing out, different ways to connect with the audience. Normally they just run with it and test out different things and then tell me how great it was after they've already implemented it, which is the best.
Right. Yeah, very cool. So on the creative side, will you guys go out and actively like look for new content? Like, okay, I really like what this person's doing, and let's try and bring them in house, or how does that process
Yeah,
work?
both ways. So we have a lot of content that comes in, where people send us, typically through the website, they'll send in a form that they want to be on Carbon TV with their content, and we have, kind of a thing for them to fill out. And then Autumn, who is our director of operations here, she actively goes out looking as well. So she heads up what we call our new content acquisition team. I still very much play a part in that because I just love, seeing all of those different types of content that we can find. But she controls that. So if she sees something and it would make sense for us and it's something we would really want to get behind and get excited about, she'll actually actively reach out to that producer or to that person and say, hey, can we set up a phone call? Julie wants to, chat with you about whatever. So kind of both ways. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. What would you say has changed the most since you got involved with Carbon TV, like in terms of our space, like in terms of, like if we look 20 years ago, like there was like $100 in 100 minutes or, stuff like that, like stuff that we now consider pretty distasteful and obviously would not just fly. What evolutions have you seen in the last few years that have been pretty significant for you?
I've seen that people are starting to realize that their audience wants to feel like they're really there with them, right? So that kind of allowing people to live vicariously through this content that they're creating. And more people are becoming comfortable with that. We see an example of that in social media, on Reels or on, stories. If you're flipping through somebody's story on Instagram, you really kind of feel like you're there with them in that moment, if it's someone you like or enjoy following. Mm-hmm. I think that real-time exposure to people in the field has become very popular. It definitely wasn't like that even 10 years ago. We were in the field, I would produce an episode and it might be 6 or 8 months before it ever saw the light of day. Now, if you do that, people are like, okay, but I want to know how that hunt went that you were on. Or even the companies that are sponsoring those shows, they have products they want out right now. They want that exposure in the moment. So, there's been a big shift. Instead of the overly produced, 6 months out, fully edited, I feel like it's very much moving in a direction where people are trying to get it out more rapidly. We have a very easy back-end system at Carbon where our producers can just upload things really quickly, get it out to their audience. They can push it live, almost immediately if they want to. And our marketing team kind of jumps in and helps with, promoting that for them. So just kind of the increase in the rapid pace of getting content out to people has been the biggest thing that I've seen over the years, and kind of the most necessary on both the the viewership side and the producer side. It's important to everybody to have pretty fast access.
So would you say in a case like that production quality is not such a focus? It doesn't have to be highly edited. It just has to be, and is that actually preferred because people like the authenticity of it, or they're just more accepting of they're just used to people walking around taking video or whatever, and they don't really, if it's pretty good, they're pretty happy with it. What's your thoughts on that? I think it's both.
I do. I think that it's more widely accepted, instead of that era. I mean, it was when I was, very, very much in the producer side. It was cinematography and you had to have slider shots and, all of these cool, beautiful scenes that we were setting up and spending so much time on. And I think there's still some of that, and I don't think it'll ever fully go away. But I think that even the producers who are still doing a lot of that, they also understand that people are going to be very forgiving if the production value falls a little bit, but they get it a little bit faster. And that's just kind of the instant gratification society that we live in,
Right. Right. In terms of content, how about length of when, and I look at Carbon TV, you guys have got, short stuff, long stuff. What are you guys seeing? Are you seeing any emerging trends that people want shorter and more concise films? And where's the cutoff? Is it going to be like a minute and a half? Is it going to be almost TikTok type stuff on the platform? What do you see that happening in the future?
Yeah, the short form content's very popular. We our producers can kind of decide if it's an episode or just a clip that they want to upload. And it gives their viewers a chance to kind of binge watch some of their content. If you have 5 2-minute clips, a lot of people will just keep watching the next one if we keep recommending it to them. But on the other hand, the long form content is great too. Like I said, if people are watching on their television through Roku or Apple TV, and they want to sit down with the family and see a film or a documentary, and so we're kind of just making sure that depending on what device or what app people are watching on, that they can find it really easily and kind of search for whatever they want. I know most people who are on their phones, they're looking for those 1 to 4 minute pieces of content, and so we're encouraging our producers to upload a little bit more of that as well.
Very cool. So now when you look forward, like you've got, the platform and Carbon TV and these different other platforms that you guys work with, do you see trends emerging there? Do you think, will Carbon TV look like it does today 5 years from now, or what is that? Do you see anything new emerging in the near future?
I think that we will always, stay true to, to who we have been this whole time as much as possible. But, I'm also very realistic that we have to evolve and change and move things around a little bit. Just like any network, just like any of them, they're constantly just making these small adaptations and changes and moving along with their audience. So yeah, I would say Carbon TV is probably going to be very similar to what it is now. In 5 years, I hope it's very similar, because I think what we're doing is fantastic and such a cool service to provide to the world. That's the way I look at it, is we're providing a service for almost 300 producer partners to tell their stories to the world, and we're providing a free service for people to consume that content. So, it's just, I hope that we do stay that path. I would like to see that, but I also know that we'll have to continue adding things into the business where, if it's a different type of service or a different type of offering, we're constantly looking for those. We did add one recently that's super interesting. We're going to start allowing people to book their hunts or adventures right through the Carbon TV website. It's called Carbon TV Outfitter Services, and it's actually a partnership. So Outfitter Services is a booking company, and now when people are watching a show or an adventure or a hunt on Carbon, they can actually just click a button and go research the outfitter or the guide or whoever it is, and actually book it right there.
Very cool. So is this the first kind of test you've done with this, or because there's a whole bunch of other opportunities, like, for example, buy this Sitka jacket, for example, or buy this shit. Well, I guess the Chevy experience, that's part of the platform, but can you do it have you done it in other parts of the service as well?
No, we've never done one like this before. So we've offered like affiliate codes, or, we obviously, we advertise for different companies. That is the monetization side of the business. So if somebody clicks an ad, they can go make a purchase, which is great. We want people to do that. We select the advertisements that people see based on what we think our audience is going to want to consume. So, probably not going to see like a Dove soap commercial popping up on Carbon, right? Like that's not going to happen. But this is different. This isn't like an advertisement. This is an actual service where, let's say you're watching Jana, bear hunt in Saskatchewan, and you're like, I've always wanted to do that. You just click it and you go right there, and you can see, not only just how much, the hunt costs, but also a gear list, if you need to know what you're going to need for that hunt, and we can link back to anybody who's interested.
That's very cool. I love it.
It's cool.
Yeah. Now, in terms of content on the platform and what you're seeing, one thing I'm seeing emerge a little bit in discussion about is not showing kill shots anymore. There's been a little bit more and more of leaning towards that lately, and now I'm hearing, some conservation organizations are like, they're not even going to show kill shots when they do their reels and stuff like that. Have you guys had discussions about that? And have you guys been testing that on sort of feedback and that sort of stuff? Where do you guys kind of sit on that aspect of it?
No, right now we are not considering removing kill shots. It's not something I feel we're at a point where we need to consider that. I do respect that some, organizations feel like it's not a good fit, or if they're, there's always reasons behind the scenes that typically aren't discussed in public, which, yeah, I have heard a lot of people talking about that recently. But no, I don't have any intention of removing kill shots, or I consider that. So my opinion may change on this, which I think, if I find a reason to feel differently in the future, that's fine. But the way I feel right now is we haven't had any backlash, no, negative comments. We don't have people reaching out, not even antis, which, knock on wood. We have a very clean, amazing user base here where, that's not something that I feel like would be necessary. I almost would categorize that as censorship, and that's not something that I believe in. I think that if it's fully legal and ethical and, something that we are excited to share with the audience, we feel like our producers should have the right to put that on there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, you've kind of talked about that before, is that you don't have that censorship stuff that some of these other platforms have to worry about. And that's the uniqueness of what you guys do, right? Is that you don't have to worry about it. It's very cool. So, yeah. Awesome. Let's talk about, how do you see yourself? You've empowered so many women in our community on so many different levels, in the business world. I think you run a couple not-for-profits, or you're involved with a couple not-for-profits. Talk about that responsibility and how you see your role doing that.
Yeah, it is a responsibility. I think that, I'm 40 years old, and I'm the CEO of, a really awesome company in the industry. So it is my responsibility to make myself available to the upcoming generations. So if people need guidance or advice or any leadership, I think that, not only is it something I enjoy doing, but it's something that I should be doing. One of these days, these, 15-year-olds or 20-year-olds, they're going to come take our jobs, right? And we need for them to be prepared and educated and ready and connected and encouraged. And I think that, along the way, over the years, I've met some really incredible people through that, where I just, give out my contact information, specifically to young women who are really wanting to start working in the industry. I'm very passionate about that. And I try to I always give them my number. I get on the phone with them and just see, how I can help, or maybe they just want to have a conversation with somebody who's been there before. And I've tried to work, on some different boards over the years, making sure that I can, use all of the knowledge that I've gathered here for some type of good. So, I think everyone should be mentoring, younger people, whether that's, a lot of times when we talk about mentorship, it's in the field, right? So taking young people hunting or teaching young people how to shoot. It also crosses over into the corporate world. I should be mentoring people who maybe want to have a job in this industry someday.
Can you talk a little bit? There were a couple not-for-profits that you were involved with. Are you still involved with them? And did you actually set one of them up? I remember you were a founder of one when we talked last.
The only one, it wasn't a not-for-profit. I founded a company called Unwind. It was kind of a sleep and meditation app, and we still have that business. It's not as much of a primary focus as Carbon is at this point, but that could be the one you're thinking. But I also I sat on the board for a company called Mend on the Move, and it empowers and employs females who are coming out of abusive relationships, gives them a job, helps them have income, and they make jewelry, and just a wonderful organization. And then I was also on the board for Pass It On Outdoor Mentors. Mike Christensen is the president over there, and it's just a wonderful organization that gets hundreds and hundreds of kids out into the field every year for their first time, shooting or hunting. So I try to stay involved in a lot of those as much as possible. I think I sat on those boards for a few years, and I moved off of them this year.
Okay. Well, yeah, you've got a little bit on your plate these days, right? So for sure. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So those were the two that I was thinking about. And then let's talk about Carbon Unwind. So, is that your platform? Is it through Carbon, or is that your personal one, or is it, I guess, in combination?
It was through Carbon. Yes. We actually started that at the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic hit, and, we weren't sure what was going to happen. So our entire team switched over and started creating sleep stories, affirmations, meditations, kids content. We created a beautiful app that has all of this content living on it. And instead of kind of staying focused on that, now that things are back in full swing, Carbon TV is growing so much, I have to pay more attention to that. We actually still have Unwind. We license out that content to other sleep and meditation apps who maybe didn't invest as much into the content side of their platforms, and so we assist with the content production.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I know for you personally, meditation's a part of your regime. How important is that to what you do?
So important. Like when you just said I need coffee, it's like for me, if I don't meditate in the mornings, it's not that I couldn't function. It's just I function at a higher level if I take that time for myself. And sometimes it's just taking some deep breaths, doing breath work, or other times it's an intense meditation where it's like, I'm really trying to, get my mind, in a certain space. So yeah, and I recommend it to everybody. And it doesn't mean that you have to meditate the same way everybody else does, right? I mean, it's kind of open to whatever a person feels is going to be best for them. But just taking a few minutes for ourselves during the day and taking some deep breaths and kind of setting an intention is one of the best things you can do.
Is this something you've always done, like from a young person, or is it something that you've kind of stepped into and evolved into over time?
No, I did not always do it. I got into it a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I noticed that the busier I became, the more time I needed to be meditating. So instead of just doing 5 minutes in the morning, if I have a very intense day with like all the phone calls and all the meetings, I'll sit there for, 15, 20 minutes and just, allow myself that time to kind of clear my head a little bit, just from all of the distractions in the world. And I always feel better afterwards. It doesn't mean that I'm always calm or, definitely not, like always running at 100%, but I do think it makes me a better person.
Do you use the Calm app for that specifically, or do you use different platforms, or how does that work?
I have about probably 4 or 5 different apps, and I kind of switch between them. I think, Ziva is one of the better ones. It's a little more expensive, but she has a very cool strategy for learning meditation. Calm is great. Headspace is great. I use Unwind sometimes. And then sometimes I just put a timer on, with nothing at all. Just, set an alarm on my phone, 15 minutes, and just, focus on intention.
So when you do that, when you do 15 minutes and you just focus, does your mind wander? You're thinking, oh, but I got this appointment in 20 minutes, or I've got this tomorrow, or are you able to clear your mind?
So that's the thing. It's okay for your mind to go to that and to think, you can't shut your brain off. It's never going to work. I think that the practice comes when you bring it back from that. You allow yourself to think about, oh gosh, when I finish this, I've got all these, okay, and then bring it back and, try to just be okay with everything as it is. Instead of imagining the conversations I'm going to have on those phone calls, I just understand I'm going to have some phone calls and it's all going to be fine. And, just kind of, and I think that's what I mean by setting intention is just, having that, it's this, I'm in this moment right now. I can't control anything that's going to happen in the future. And I'm just going to be here in this place. And if my mind starts wondering, I just bring it right back.
So do you find in your role as president, obviously everyone wants a piece at you. Your time is critical. I'm sure you have staff standing outside your door that want to talk to you right now. Is it hard to take that 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever you need in the day to say, I'm just going to focus on this and lock people out of your life for that time period?
No, it's not hard at all. I wake up super early in the mornings and I meditate. I work out almost every single day. Fortunately for me, we have a gym in the office. So, I'm usually here. I've got a meditation room in there as well. And it's really time management. I wouldn't know what to do if I wasn't super busy. And my team, everyone who works here, they're very self-sufficient. So, I set time to meet with them and to work with them. But yeah, for the most part, it's a very manageable schedule, no worse than anybody else's. And I just have to make sure that I'm managing my time and using it wisely more than anything.
Right. Now, if you were to take one of those things, so you talk about working out, you talk about meditation, you talk about the stuff that you do in the outdoors, your personal time. If you took and you could only do one of those things and you're just like, okay, you literally can only do one thing, what would it be? What's the most important thing for you to sort of keep you engaged and on track and just recage your mind so that you're ready to go?
Definitely time in the outdoors, because it combines the other two things in with it, right? So, if I'm outdoors, it is kind of a meditation in itself, right? I think everyone's kind of experienced that. Even if you wouldn't call it a meditation, it's kind of, along those same lines. And, it's the best way to stay healthy, that fresh air and hiking around, moving. So if I had to eliminate those, I would just spend all my time outside because I would still get to check those boxes.
Is Michigan pretty good for that? Like, can you just step out and be in nature and sort of, let go? You talk about you're going to go out and hang out with Jana. Well, you get on an airplane, you're going to fly to Montana. And yeah, when you get there, it's going to be amazing, but it's a lot getting there. It's a lot getting back. It's a lot of work, but can you do that at home in Michigan?
Not as much. I like it here.
Right.
I came here because this is where the company is. But the more time I've spent here, the more I like it. And, Banjo, my dog, comes to work with me every day. And so we go and we find different places to walk and adventure. And, there's some nice places here. And I have some places I can go on the weekends and go camping and, go turkey hunting or look for morels. So, yeah, it's not quite Montana, honestly, but I've made the best of it. And I really like it here. The people are so nice and, I'm starting to get more used to it.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, let's talk a little bit about what's new with the platform. Any new shows you got on. Let's chat about that stuff.
Yeah, so lots of new shows. I know since the beginning of the year, I think we've added maybe 15 new shows, which is, pretty much on pace. We add about 40 or 50 shows a year. That's kind of the pace that we go. We do offer podcasts now, which has gone really well. It was just kind of a natural progression. Most people come to Carbon to watch videos, but we thought, well, some people might want to listen to stuff here. So we built a podcast distribution network into the current infrastructure. So if you're watching Carbon, you can flip over and listen to podcasts, which is really great. So that's kind of cool. The team is working on kind of a full-on overall platform update. So the user experience is going to change a little. Things will look a little different. A lot of new features. So yeah, it's and the other thing that we do is we have, our global fast channel distribution now. So people in all of the other countries can always watch Carbon TV everywhere, which has been really, really cool.
Worldwide?
Yeah. We were already worldwide because, if somebody in Germany, was watching Carbon TV, that's totally possible. But we moved into instead of like on the AVOD side, we moved into connected TV distribution. So if somebody has a TCL, brand of television, for example, they can easily find Carbon TV on there, and it's just kind of preloaded into a lot of these different places now. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Pitch me a couple shows. What are a couple shows that I need to check out, new ones that you got on the platform?
Let's see. So Christy Titus just launched her new, it's kind of like a reality vlog, which is really cool. It's called Our Wild Life. And I mean, we're big Christy fans around here. Pursue the Wild does really well. Everyone loves it. She's a longtime friend of mine. So now she's doing kind of like a behind the scenes vlog style of, her and Yogi and the things that they're doing. That one's been really popular out of the gate. And one of the interesting ones that we added is a serpentine show. So it's snake hunters.
Wow.
It's actually really cool. And the first one of its kind that I've ever seen. So we brought that one on about maybe a month and a half ago, and people love it. It's just something so wildly different and interesting, and they really know what they're doing. So it's kind of educational. That one's been really cool. A lot of people are going into their new seasons right now, which is fun. So Decivilized, Laura Zara's show, is launching, I want to say next week, her season 3. And the cool thing about that one is she's focusing all on natural disasters survival. So people who survive a natural disaster, kind of going back and recapping, what could you have done different? What can you do to prepare? How can you kind of be ready for a lot of these disasters that happen? So that's going to be a very cool season.
Awesome. I'd like to put you on the spot and ask you what your favorite show is, but I'm not going to do that because I know you're friends with half the people on Carbon TV. You might make some enemies out of it. So
I love all of them. I do. We always have it playing on the TV here, and I just I have such big respect for all of them, and I think that comes from for years, so many years, I worked in production. I ran camera, and I was line producing and field producing, and I know how much work goes into it. And so when I see their final results and I see them really putting their heart and soul into it, it's just what an honor that we get to be a part of that.
Yeah, very cool. All right. So anyone that wants to check out Carbon TV, how do they get involved? How can they sign up?
Carbon TV is super easy to find anywhere on your phone, tablet, computer. CarbonTV.com is the easiest if you're just like surfing around. If you have a Roku, Apple TV, if you have Amazon Fire Stick, a Samsung TV you just bought at Walmart, we're on there. So you just go in the search, look for Carbon TV, and then add it. So I did it on the Roku here in the office, and it took 10 seconds. So easy. Always, free. We never ask you to sign in. You don't have to do anything, but just start watching immediately. And obviously, social media, our team is very active on there, sharing a lot of what our producers are up to. So I think Instagram, it's Carbon TV Media is the name of it. And then Facebook, they're all over on there at Carbon TV.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for taking the time today, and appreciate all you do for our hunting space, our outdoor space, and for women in hunting, all that stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me back on.
Okay. And seriously, we're going to take you up at Sheep Week. We'll have you at the booth and do a podcast there.
I will be there this year. So. I promise. Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe we can meditate together.
That would be great.
I need some help.
We will do it.
Thanks.